All right, welcome to another deep dive. And
That sounds
today,
exciting.
it really is, yeah. Today, we're going to look at the artist Bob Camblin.
Okay.
And this is going to be really interesting because, well, the learner has given us just a ton of material to go over. So we've got his writings, we've got biographical details, and we've got critical reviews.
Right. A lot to unpack.
Yeah, so we're going to try and uncover what makes him such an iconoclastic and enigmatic artist.
That's quite a label to live up to.
It is.
Yeah.
So we're going to navigate his thoughts on art, life, creativity.
Big questions.
Yeah, the big ones.
Right.
Aiming for, some real insight, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
But without getting lost in the weeds too much,
Absolutely. Keep it digestible.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is it about this Bob Camblin that people find so intriguing?
Well, I think he definitely carved a unique path for himself. And the sources we have, I think, give us a good way to see that
Definitely.
from different angles. Yeah.
So let's start just to get a clearer picture of the man.
Okay.
He was born in Oklahoma in 1928.
All right.
And his artistic journey took him to the Kansas City Art Institute,
Okay.
where he really honed his craft.
Mm-hmm.
And a pivotal moment seems to have been his Fulbright scholarship to Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That must have had a huge impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Upon returning, he spent a good chunk of his career teaching,
Mm.
sharing his knowledge at different institutions, Ringling School of Art, and even Rice University right here in Houston.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Local connection.
yeah.
That's interesting.
But then in 1976, he made a pretty big decision.
Mm.
He left academia to immerse himself fully in his art.
That's a bold move.
It is.
Yeah.
Embracing a nomadic existence. So
Wow.
makes you wonder what led to that shift.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, what prompts a person to make such a drastic change?
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks like, this period of dedication led to some just incredibly prolific output.
Okay.
We see evidence of him working in just a wide range of mediums.
Mm.
Oils, watercolors.
Classic.
Yeah, even more experimental things like painted paper. So
Interesting.
it's really a remarkable range.
It is.
Yeah.
It speaks to a real kind of restlessness almost, a need to keep exploring.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because what we're seeing is that his work is pretty scarce.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay.
On the market.
Mm-hmm.
But the demand is high.
Interesting.
So-
So it seems like...
So supply and demand, huh?
Yeah.
So a Camblin piece surfaces and then
Poof.
it's gone.
Yeah. It often goes for, significant prices.
I can imagine.
Yes.
So this rarity, I mean, it definitely adds to this whole enigmatic persona, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the information that we're working with,
Okay.
these insights, they come from a pretty diverse set of sources,
Mm.
all thanks to the learner.
Of course, yeah.
So we have excerpts from Camblin's personal writings,
Yeah.
and this is called Bob Camblin Quotes and Other Mysteries.
All right, straight from the source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got Bob Camblin Biography.pdf, which gives us this framework of his life and his career.
Essential context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have historicalinfo.pdf, which gives us some critical reviews, some forward.
Critical lens.
Yeah. And then finally, a YouTube transcript that
Mhm.
analyzes the St. Sebastian Scarecrow. So
All right. So we're getting a deep dive into a specific piece.
we are.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's quite a puzzle.
it is.
Yeah. So we're seeing Camblin through his own words. We're seeing him through his life, through the eyes of critics,
Yeah.
and then through this kind of focused analysis of one piece of art.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So our aim in this deep dive is to synthesize all of that,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Really pull out the core of his philosophy, his perspective on art and life, and then the recurring themes that we see throughout his work.
Yeah, those threads that connect everything.
Yeah, so the learner, our goal is to give you a good, solid understanding of why this guy remains so compelling and so important in the art world.
It's a worthy goal.
All right, so let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Starting with Camblin's own understanding of what art actually is.
Yeah. How did he define it?
He had some pretty direct things to say on the matter.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So what did he think?
So he was particularly he had a very interesting view on the purpose of art
Oh, yeah?
and how that purpose was evolving.
Okay.
And he stated pretty plainly that the whole art for art's sake
Right.
thing.
El adage.
Yeah, that had really become more
Mhm.
art for life's sake or art for my sake or art for survival's sake.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
A real shift in focus there.
It is.
So If we think about the artistic philosophies of his time, I mean, this is suggesting a move away from a purely aesthetic
Right.
focus, right? It's
Right.
more about connecting art to
Yeah.
like the human experience,
Yeah. Right.
personal meaning, lived experience,
Yeah.
survival even.
Yeah.
I wonder what experiences or observations led him to that kind of thinking.
Yeah, it really grounds art in
Yes.
just
Yeah.
reality.
In being human.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He also had some interesting thoughts on just creativity itself.
Okay.
And he almost democratizes it in a way.
Yeah.
He believed that creativity exists in everyone,
Right.
but we lose touch with this magic by prioritizing understanding over knowing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like he saw overanalyzing as a barrier to true
Got it.
creative expression.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not about thinking too much about it. It's about
Right.
tapping into something deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he described creativity as a learning process where teacher and pupil are located in the same individual.
That's a great quote.
It's a really interesting thought.
It is.
When you think
it,
about
because it means it's this really internal, self-reliant
Mm-hmm.
part of creating something.
Yeah.
You're having this dialogue with yourself, like this constant discovery that's driven from within
Right.
and not from outside sources or anything like that.
Right.
And he also said that true creativity often starts where language ends.
It's a really good point.
So what does that mean?
Well, I think it means that there's this realm of
Yeah.
expression
Like
that
full?
goes beyond words.
Yeah.
Maybe it connects to emotions or sensations or insights that words can only kind of, touch upon.
Like art is communicating on this whole other level that we don't have words for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then he said this, which is just, it's both profound and really simple, I think. He said that any activity becomes creative when the doer cares about doing it right or better.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so simple, but so true.
Yeah, and it just broadens the definition of creativity
But-
beyond art, right?
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Right.
It suggests that, the intention, the care that we bring to anything can make it creative.
It really makes you think about, even the most mundane tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes it out of those
Right.
specific areas, like, the studio or the concert hall.
Yeah, it's not limited to that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
anywhere.
All right, so another really compelling part of Camblin's work and thinking is this role of paradox and questioning.
Paradox and questioning.
Yeah.
Right. And this really stuck out to me in the reviews.
Okay.
One described his art as paradoxes made visible.
And we have these examples, like a trap that does not trap.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A structure that stands but does not move.
Okay.
A disappearing object that was never meant to be lost.
I mean, those are pretty contradictory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you make of those?
I mean, it seems like these paradoxes are like fundamental to how he sees the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he's deliberately trying to disrupt our normal ways of thinking and make us look beyond like the surface.
Yeah.
And that review, it actually said that his art is a series of questions disguised as images.
Interesting.
And then it connects that to philosophy.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because philosophy is full of these big questions that don't have easy answers.
Right. Right.
So he's not trying to give us solutions. He's trying to make us think.
Yeah.
He's trying to provoke us.
Yeah.
Get us to question things.
Right.
Yeah.
And he also said that he encouraged people to step off the train of thought
Interesting.
to discover true power and laughter.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying that our usual way of thinking can be limiting.
Yeah.
And if we break free from that, we might discover something really amazing.
Yeah, like a different kind of understanding and even joy.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Zen approach.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about some of those recurring themes that we see in both his art and his writing.
Okay. Let's hear them.
These concepts of metamorphosis, balance, and then the beauty of the everyday.
Those are big ones.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
So the theme of metamorphosis or, transformation and change, I think it really drew him in.
Okay.
And the biography highlights these series of his that involve scarecrows, lobster shells, even larva shells.
Interesting combination.
Yeah.
What do those have in common?
Well, he specifically links them to the cyclical nature of life. and this process of transformation.
Right.
So that fascination with change is woven throughout his work.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it shows up in his writing too,
It
right?
is, yeah.
Like with all those images of the things changing and transitioning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's balance, which
Oh.
seems to have been really central to his view of the world.
Okay.
And he wrote about balancing and being for and against.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So holding opposite ideas at the same time.
Yeah. And he said, in the balance, patience and yet, freedom again, and yet, in silence, the reality can be maintained.
Wow.
It's almost like he was always looking for that state of equilibrium between opposing forces,
Like a constant balancing act.
Yeah. And he even talked about wanting to achieve a perfectly average. Yeah.
View of the universe. That's a unique way to put it.
It is, yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
Well, I think he believed that from this balanced perspective, he could fully appreciate both science and magic.
Oh, I see.
So
embracing both the rational and the mystical.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that ability to hold those two things together.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems key to understanding his whole philosophy.
And then we have this deep appreciation for the everyday.
Okay.
And the biography mentions his affinity for haiku and haiga.
Oh, wow.
Right. These Japanese art forms that find meaning in just simple observations.
Right, right.
And his move to Houston and then the series that followed that, including Saint Bambola, really seemed to reflect this evolving engagement with the world around him.
Okay.
It's like he found the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Right, finding the beauty in the everyday.
Yeah.
Something that, a lot of great artists do, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So now let's talk about this mystic switch and the emphasis he placed on direct experience.
This sounds crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he believed that each person has to find their own mystic switch.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
Well, it's that deeply personal reaction
Okay.
that signals that you've hit on a truth. And he said it could be, a rising hackle or the visceral knot.
Interesting. So it's like a gut feeling.
Yeah, like a gut feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. And he emphasized that this is subjective and it can change over time. It's like your internal compass for authenticity,
So it's about trusting your own intuition.
Yeah, yeah.
More than any external rules or anything like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And he really advocated for learning to truly see and not just look,
Right.
And he said it was essential to try to fail in order to succeed.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So failure is part of the process.
Yeah. He didn't see the attempt as failure, regardless of the outcome. He just saw the learning as the...
Yeah, it's all about learning and growing.
Right, yeah. So it's a totally different way of looking at mistakes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And he went on to distinguish between believing and knowing.
Okay, how did he do that?
Well, he said believing is often shaped by your upbringing, by culture, by external sources.
Things you're told?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
But knowing comes from this direct personal experience.
Interesting.
Right.
So one is external and one is internal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's almost like, what mystics describe.
Right, that kind of direct knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was really big on cultivating a balance between thinking and intuition.
Okay, so it's not about rejecting rationality.
No.
It's about integrating it with this deeper knowing.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like he wanted people to move beyond just accepting information and really engage with the world using their senses and their intuition to have a more experiential understanding.
That makes sense, given everything else we've talked about. Yeah.
Now, it's not really surprising then that he also had some strong opinions about the art world and what he called the art game.
Right, the whole system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really outspoken in his critique of critics.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
Well, he said that they were like a legless man who teaches running.
That's a pretty scathing analogy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And he also questioned historians
Oh.
and their authority in shaping how we understand art.
So he was skeptical of, like, external judgments. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like he really believed in the individual's experience of art,
Yeah.
their own interpretation.
And he didn't just talk about these critiques. He experimented with challenging these norms.
Okay.
So the biography mentions collaborative art
Okay.
and even instances where he signed work as anonymous.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or sometimes Mr. Peanut.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was really emphasizing the creative process
Yeah.
over the individual ego.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's not about the artist's name, it's
Well,
about the art itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he had this partnership with Earl Staley
Okay.
and Joe Tate.
Mm-hmm.
And they called themselves B&E Productions.
B&E Productions.
Yeah.
I wonder what that stood for.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And they really pushed the boundaries
Yeah.
of what art could be.
In what way?
Well, they would hold these events and exhibitions that were meant to disrupt traditional expectations.
Yeah.
They were blurring the lines between individual and collective creation.
Right. So it's more about
Yeah.
the shared creative energy
Yeah.
than any one person taking credit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He clearly valued that shared energy and
Yeah.
the experience itself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So where did money fit into all this?
That's that's a good question.
Huh?
Because the biography even mentions times where he refused payment.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So he wasn't interested in commercial success.
Well, it seems like his commitment to the art was just
Yeah.
so deep that it went beyond,
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
He was all about the intrinsic value.
I see.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Given his philosophy.
Yeah, yeah. And he also had he had specific ideas about how art should be experienced.
Mm-hmm.
He advocated for solo exhibitions
Oh,
because he thought that group shows confused the viewer.
interesting.
Yeah.
So he wanted people to focus on
Yeah.
one artist's vision at a time.
Yeah. He really wanted the audience to be fully immersed
Yeah.
in the environment
Mm-hmm.
that a single artist created.
That's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying that group shows can dilute the impact of the art.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is definitely an artist who was doing things his own way.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing by the rules.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and
Yeah.
talk about the Saint Sebastian Scarecrow and the analysis from the YouTube transcript.
Okay.
This piece is a really potent metaphor.
Okay.
And the analysis suggests that the scarecrow, even though it's empty and it's got these arrows in it,
Yeah.
it doesn't actually suffer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't experience suffering on a personal level.
Okay.
And this ties in with Zen principles,
Mm-hmm.
where pain is seen as something that comes and goes.
Right, it's transient.
Yeah.
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 It doesn't stick.
Yeah.
This idea of a self.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So it's a very different way of looking at hardship.
It is, yeah. And what's really interesting is this idea
Okay.
that the scarecrow doesn't resist the arrows. It just
Yeah.
exists in that moment.
Right. It's not fighting against the pain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just accepting it.
And that's so different from how we usually react.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Our instinct is to push back, to try and control things.
Yeah.
But he's saying that maybe that's not the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the analysis also connects this scarecrow
Okay.
to hexagram 47 in the I Ching,
Okay.
which is about oppression and exhaustion.
Wow. Heavy stuff.
Yeah, but it's not seen as defeat.
Oh,
It's seen as refinement,
interesting.
like a process of renewal and growth.
So within those difficult times, there's potential for something new to emerge.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And the scarecrow, even though it looks broken,
Yeah. It's still standing.
right, there's a resilience there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that echoes the story of Saint Sebastian, who also survived.
Right.
So it's like there's this strength
Yeah.
in vulnerability.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And the transcript makes this point that the real danger is not the arrows themselves,
Yeah.
but the illusion of resistance.
Right.
So by not fighting, the scarecrow actually stays whole.
Yeah.
It doesn't break down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's untouched by despair.
Wow.
It's surrender, but not as weakness,
Yeah.
but as this profound strength.
That's a really powerful image.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So this scarecrow accepts reality completely, without ego, without expectations.
Yeah.
And that's presented as the key to transcending suffering.
Wow. So it's like a model for how to deal with the tough stuff in life.
Yeah, yeah. And the transcript even encourages us, the learner, to think about our own arrows.
Okay.
You know, the self-criticism, the fear, the judgments.
Yeah, the things that get us down.
Yeah, and to consider surrendering.
That's a challenging idea,
It is, yeah.
but I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, it's real self-examination.
Yeah.
So it's an invitation to really look at how we relate to adversity. And whether our resistance is actually making it worse.
Right.
The scarecrow shows us this other way.
It's a different way of being in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving beyond that metaphor, let's talk a little bit about some of his techniques and the hidden meanings